of the Ugandan parliament. He's the leader of the National Unity Platform political party, a former presidential candidate, and an incredible musician. Bobi, thank you so much for making the time. We are humbled and honored to have you on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm really glad to be here.
So just to start off, to give listeners a little context, you just ran in Uganda's presidential election against President Museveni, who has been in office since 1986. That is a very long time ago. Why did you decide to take him on now?
Well, not just now. Uganda has been wanting change for the longest time. Like you rightly put it, General Museveni has been ruling Uganda since 1986, when he and a group of rebels took over our country violently by force of arms. And that has been the status of our country for the last 35 years. I decided to run for president because Uganda was desperate for change. But again, even before I ran for president, I came into politics because I wanted to represent the common people, the ghetto people, the poor people, but most importantly, the young people, because young people in Uganda were largely excluded from the politics of their country. And yet, young people are over 80% of our population. For example, I'm 39, but over 80% of our population are under the age of 35. So young people were largely disconnected, and I did not want to just inspire them through the music. I wanted to demonstrate by getting actively involved in the politics of our country, and thereby many young people would get involved. And I'm thankful that many people from my generation have joined politics, and yes, many of them have run for office. And we hope to have a full representation of our generation, not just me, but people that think like me and people from the 21st century with 21st century ideas.
So I think, no one who watched the election closely would say that it was free and fair. Thousands of your supporters were detained around the election. You have been put under house arrest. You've been repeatedly harassed by Museveni's security forces. Members of the media were beaten by military police just for trying to cover your campaign. What is the security situation like now? Are you able to move around at all? Like, what is the status for the opposition?
Yeah, first of all, it's true that the election was neither free nor fair. As we speak, all of my campaign team is in prison. They were all rounded up on an island with me as we campaigned. Apart from me, everybody else was detained, and they are in prison up to now. The state arrested them on the 30th of November 2020. But then, according to the court records, they are charged with a crime that they allegedly committed on the 3rd of January 2021. That is when they are in prison. But the state alleges that they committed a crime when they were in prison, but they apparently committed it in the middle of town. Many other of our supporters and leaders are on the run. Many are missing. More than 3,000 of our supporters are in jails across the country, and over 240 are actually missing. Those ones were abducted. So that is the status of our team, but the entire country is in fear. Abductions and kidnaps, state-inspired abductions and kidnaps are ongoing. Just the other day, General Museveni, the current president of Uganda, came on national TV and confessed that he indeed was the one that ordered for the murder of Ugandans. Remember, on the 18th and 19th of November, more than 100 Ugandans were shot and killed by police and the military, although General Museveni admitted that it was only 54 people that was killed. And, it's a general sense of hopelessness in Uganda. That being the way it is, we have continuously encouraged our supporters to be non-violent, to be peaceful, but to be assertive. So the situation in Uganda today is tense. The military and the police are on rampage, but the people of Uganda are holding on strong because hope is one thing that they refused to lose.
Like the behavior you just described from Museveni and the military is horrifying. And if we're being honest, I mean, his autocratic tendencies have been clear for a long time, but that has not stopped the United States government from providing Uganda with billions of dollars of aid, lots of which goes directly to the military. The State Department recently said that the conduct of Ugandan authorities in the recent election will be a factor when they consider future U.S. assistance levels. Do you think that that kind of threat to cut off or condition aid by Western countries is helpful? Is there fear it could play into Museveni's narrative that, anyone who opposes him must be an agent of a foreign interest?
For starters, on behalf of the people of Uganda, we are thankful to the development partners, but most importantly, the United States, because the United States has not only stood with Uganda in terms of security, but even in other sectors of development. It is true that General Museveni's regime survives largely on the military support from the United States. It's very unfortunate that General Museveni has successfully hoodwinked the West, and in particular the United States, made them believe that he is the anchor of stability in the Great Lakes region, and indeed has gone ahead to blackmail the United States every time they call him out on human rights abuses or on the utter disrespect of the rule of law and democratic principles. We believe that it is only the development partners, and most importantly, the United States, that can hold General Museveni to account, because the military, which is the backbone of Museveni's oppressive regime, is largely funded by the United States. We have, on behalf of the people of Uganda, reached out to the United States, requesting numerously that the United States evokes its own laws, like the Global Magnitsky and other laws, in order to hold to account the human rights abusers who are largely General Museveni's henchmen. And we are thankful that the Global Magnitsky has been evoked on such human rights abuses. But again, that is not enough. We appreciate the strongly worded statements that have come from the United States, but we believe that the United States can follow the strongly worded statements with strong actions, because the people of Uganda are, for lack of a better word, in a state of hopelessness. Right now, as we speak, people are being abducted, and the other day we were with the parents, all men and women and children of the abducted citizens of Uganda, seeking redress, having petitioned the Uganda Human Rights Commission, but of course gotten no redress from there. We decided to petition the United Nations Human Rights Office. But it was so shocking that the military showed up and beat the families of the abducted people, and indeed beat up journalists as well on the entrance of the United Nations Human Rights Office, as if to communicate that, General Museveni fears no one. We strongly believe that if the United States reviews its cooperation with Uganda, but most importantly, makes the respect for human rights, observing the rule of law and respect for democracy, if that is made, if those are made preconditions of cooperation with Uganda, then we strongly believe that General Museveni will be reminded that he is also accountable to all the statutes that we are signatory to. For example, the International Observation of Human Rights. So, yes, we are, hopeful that if the United States holds back its military and other kinds of cooperation and assistance to Uganda and makes preconditions for human rights and the rule of law, we strongly believe that would be, a positive step in the right direction.
Well, I personally hope that, the Biden administration listens to your words here and takes action to back up those words. Relatedly, there's a lot of well-meaning people in the United States who hear about injustices in other countries and want to do something to help, right? In recent years, you've seen major social media campaigns around Joseph Kony, for example, or the effort to rescue young girls who were kidnapped in Nigeria. And sometimes those efforts have unintended consequences, which can be negative. Is there a role in your mind for average citizens to play who are not from Uganda to help resistance movements like yours, or, is that inappropriate?
Of course, it's absolutely appropriate for the world citizens to stand in solidarity with the people of Uganda. I must also take this opportunity to thank the world citizens. There are many people from the United States and from all over the world that have raised their voices in very desperate times when I was personally illegally arrested and kept in military detention under grave torture. It took the voices from friends of Uganda from across the world to get me out of the torture chamber that I was in. And yes, even recently in November, when very many people were shot and murdered, it took the voices of the people of the world to raise awareness about our plight. Many times, the internet is cut off here in Uganda. Whenever there are grave human rights abuses, the General Museveni doesn't want the world to see. The internet is cut off. But because we have friends of Uganda that are always following up, they always raise an alarm, and it is the international attention that has kept some of us alive. So we know that it's a very, very important lifeline for us, and we encourage all friends of Uganda in the United States and all over the world to continuously raise their voices. It reminds us that we are also citizens of the global village. It reminds us that we are part of the international community, and it also, gives us a responsibility to look out for other citizens of the world that are being oppressed, that are suffering in the dark.
Last question for you. So, this week you announced that you're withdrawing your court case to challenge the presidential election results because the courts just aren't independent. These are judges who work for Museveni. Given all the ways that he has rigged the system to stay in power, what's the path forward for the opposition in Uganda?
Thank you. I'm glad that you are aware that we are withdrawing from the Supreme Court of Uganda, because it is clearly biased. I want to reiterate the reasons why we withdrew from the Supreme Court of Uganda. Number one is that the Chief Justice of Uganda is Museveni's previous lawyer. He was Museveni's lawyer in the previous presidential election petition, and he was defending Museveni. Now he is the head of the Supreme Court. He is the Chief Justice. And not only that, but just days after we handed in our petition in the Supreme Court of Uganda, the Chief Justice invited General Museveni for a function, and he, in his own words, asserted that General Museveni would still be president next year, which we believe was a sign of double standards. And since then, the Chief Justice and many other justices from the Supreme Court have met Museveni 3 times publicly and numerous times secretly. And indeed, on one of the meetings, General Museveni promised that he would meet the justices of the Supreme Court privately. We don't know what transpired in their secret meeting, but we know that in one of the public meetings, the Chief Justice presented a budget of some of the things that he wanted done by General Museveni. Now, while all this is going, there is a petition against General Museveni's purported winning of the presidency on the table of the Chief Justice. But right after those meetings, the Chief Justice blocked an amendment to our electoral petition, even when he was aware that I was kept under house arrest for 11 days, and yet the law gives me 15 days to file a petition. In the previous election petitions, an amendment was accepted, but in my case, the Supreme Court rejected an amendment. In the previous presidential election petitions, evidence was accepted all through the hearing, but we have not even started the hearing, but my evidence was rejected by the Supreme Court. In the just recent election petition of 2016 against General Museveni, filed in by Honorable Amama Mbapazi, the submissions of the case went way over a week, but the Chief Justice said My team can only submit our case for 30 minutes. So all these signs of bias, that's why we opted to ask the Chief Justice to recuse himself because he had clear conflict of interest. Unfortunately, he refused, and we had no option but to opt out of their court because they were clearly not independent. We decided to take this case back to the court of public opinion, to the court of the people of Uganda. And I must say that now, like we've been saying in the past, the people of Uganda are going to have the last word in the destiny of their country. We are going to call upon the people, and the people of Uganda are going to have to take it upon themselves. Of course, I have been categorical calling upon the people of Uganda to be law-abiding and to be non-violent. We don't believe in violence whatsoever. I've reminded the people of Uganda that in 1980, when the Supreme Court was behaving in a similar way like the court is behaving, when the former president, Apollo Milton Obote, rigged the election, General Museveni went to the courts, but he abandoned the case and went and waged a war that consumed over 500,000 people. We don't believe in violence, and we are not going to use violence. We are not going to go to war. We are going to call upon the people of Uganda, and it is within our law for the people to protest for a right. So we are going to call upon the people of Uganda because we believe that the people of Uganda will raise their voices non-violently. We really hope that the world will stand with us because General Museveni is the kind of person that believes so strongly in violence. And we know that he has always responded to everything with violence. Even if we are to protest from our bedrooms, General Museveni is expected to mount tanks and a little force against the people of Uganda. So we hope the world will not close its eyes on the people of Uganda because we are on the road to achieving our democracy non-violently. And we look forward to see the world standing with us.
Well, we are humbled and inspired by your fight for justice and free and fair elections in Uganda. I promise we'll keep watching this story, and I'm incredibly grateful to you for giving us the time today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.